Well, markets mainland China continue to be closed for Golden Week, but Hong Kong markets coming back from the National Day holiday, opening trade in the red. Not a huge surprise there, given the falls that we saw on Wall Street overnight, and of course the social unrest which continues in Hong Kong, and in fact it got worse over the course of the day yesterday. So the Hang Seng Index is now down by 0.9%. Looking at the heavyweights over in Hong Kong on the open of trade here in the markets, and all of the heavyweights there in negative territory. Tencent, the worst performer, down by more than 2% very early on in the trading session. Now, the Hong Kong markets do open after that unrest that I just pointed out in the city. They took another violent turn. As we've been reporting, police fired live ammunition on protesters, and for the first time in nearly 4 months of unrest, they shot a demonstrator who was injured and sent to hospital. Now, by nightfall, we saw more fires, more vandalism, more pepper spray from police as they tried to contain the unrest. Compare that to the scenes over on mainland China, where Communist Party leaders presided over a spectacular ceremony in Beijing as they marked the 70th anniversary of the founding of the People's Republic of China. Martin's with us now live from Beijing. Martin, good morning.
Good morning. Good morning, everybody. Yeah, one big party yesterday, those 70th anniversary celebrations. The messaging, implicit in the messaging, though, in President Xi Jinping's speech just ahead of that massive parade and show of military force, very positive. Peaceful reunification of Hong Kong as well as Taiwan. The suggestion here being that, look, this is the plan, guys, and we can do this not so much the easy way or the hard way, but we can do this my way or the hard way, backed by the PLA, which was on full display yesterday. With regards to Hong Kong and the idea of peaceful unification, especially after the latest news of the shooting of this 18-year-old boy yesterday, the first time a live ammunition and rounds have found their target. I don't think we should be waiting or watching so much for Beijing's response. So far, there has not been any. But I think Beijing is more watching and waiting and seeing how the situation in Hong Kong develops, whether this, let's say, God forbid, this young man dies. Shri was reporting out this could further radicalize the protest movement. My thinking also is that you could not just radicalize it, but potentially also push it underground. In other words, turn it into a, if not revolutionary, at least a terrorist type movement here. And if that were to happen, I think the perception from Beijing's part would be very, very different. We talked about how troop levels in Hong Kong have escalated very rapidly. In fact, in just the last month or so, they have more than doubled. We were used to 5,000 to 6,000 PLA garrison in Hong Kong. Now, according to Reuters reports based on conversations with foreign envoys who are in tune with developments there, troop levels now have gone up to 11,000 to 12,000. So this is not just PLA, but also PAP, People's Armed Police. These are paramilitary police trained and also equipped specifically to deal with urban unrest in situations like Hong Kong. So we'll wait and watch. The attention, I think, is right now much more on Hong Kong. Back to you.
All right, Martin, stay with us. Let's bring in Bo Zhuang, Chief China Economist at TS Lombard, joining us live here on the desk in Singapore. What a contrast, what you saw in Hong Kong versus what you saw in China. And of course, I know you're very much focused on mainland China, but still, it's such a stunning contrast.
Yes, it's definitely, but I think that such a contrast is more or less, let's say, expected, because market has been expecting such a large-scale protest. But the things that unfortunate shooting case, I think, was definitely defining a new level of escalation, nevertheless. You
were saying earlier during the break that you believe that what we saw out of China when it comes to the parade and, of course, the gala and the speeches from Xi Jinping was very much focused on the domestic audience, which I found particularly interesting because it seemed to me, from a complete external perspective, that, this show of military might was really focused externally on the world around China to say, well, look who we are.
Yeah, that's just one side of message. Obviously, the international audience sees that look at the missile, look at the flexing muscles. That's showing a message to America. But I will look at the way that is for domestic consumption as well, because how the Communist Party have presented the 70th anniversary is showing a message to the domestic audience that we have done such a good job, and then we have delivered such a great growth, and then we got such a powerful nation. That's why giving all this trouble we have, the domestic households need to believe in the party again, and we Communist Party could deliver a stronger nation if you believe in us.
Will it work?
Domestic audience is really buying into this type of the narrative.
So it will work?
For now.
For now. Okay. Martin, come on in.
Yeah, Bojuang, good morning. I mean, the counterpoint to these celebrations we had yesterday, of course, not just the crisis in Hong Kong, but also that this is happening. They're having this celebration at a time when the Chinese economy continues to slow. I think that's one of the biggest, challenges the government here faces. You believe, I understand, that their priority is not growth, it is still stability. Explain what you mean by that.
Yes, for now, I think that the growth is still both growth and stability is quite important. As you can see, the haze in Beijing that suggests that Beijing hasn't really cracked down the pollution that just to simply for 7 years anniversary. And also that Beijing have been saying that we like to stabilize the growth. At the same time that this slower growth is good for us, we are aiming for quality growth. And I think the most important development in the last few months would be Beijing, in my view, is accepting lower growth at the same time blaming the lower growth because of trade war.
Indeed, yeah, I've read your stuff, and your thinking is that, Xi Jinping's administration is digging in his heels because he thinks the U.S. is not so much intent on rebalancing or redressing the economic relationship and trade relationship between the two sides, but the U.S. is actually out to undermine China's economy and slow growth, and therefore challenge the Communist Party. Back to this idea of stability over growth, it's in particular financial stability that you think they're focusing on right now. We've had bailouts already, Jinzhou Bank, Baosheng Bank as well. Do you think now that the celebrations are over, there could be more bailouts to come?
Yes, I think that definitely smaller banks in China is one of the sectors most vulnerable in the coming months. I think that apart from the Jinzhou and Baosheng Bank, there are a couple of other banks like Harbin Bank or Bohai Bank are definitely at the risk. And then, but however, let's say helicopter money coming to rescue case of these banks are quite unlikely in the coming months. But nevertheless, we'll see some stress in the smaller banks.